Jay, all good. Stream going live in 1 minute.
Chal, let's begin. Hi everybody. We are back for the second part of Your Ancestors Weren't Evil. Because this bias towards the ancient people, sadly, is universal. So there is a lot of ground to cover. Last time, we explored ancient Egypt and Greece. And today, we are going to go a bit further. South America is a great example of a total wipeout. Did you know that most, if not all, that we know about the Incas, the Mayans, Aztecs, etc., is from the Spanish colonizers? Yeah, the same people who conquered South America, uprooted their culture, destroyed tradition, and installed a completely new system. Colonization is an understatement. Somehow, it makes complete logical sense to trust the Spaniards over the indigenous people, who later became known as the pre-Columbians. Almost prehistoric. The ones who survived had no choice but to wrap their heads around the new order. So, who were these ancient people according to the historians? A bunch of bloodthirsty, child-sacrificing, idol-worshipping, dirty pagans. They love to smear the blood of their tortured loved ones on their face and dance around the fire with their organs hung around the necks. Until, of course, in came the colonizers to teach them some manners. Sound familiar? The colonists destroyed most traces of indigenous knowledge. Whatever was allowed to survive seems to only support their claims of barbarism. Bishop Diego de Landa single-handedly burnt most of the Mayan scriptures and codices, and the locals who rebelled tortured and burnt along with their writings, and all to teach them lessons about morality. He then went on to inform the world about the Mayan history, and to this day, we still see these ancient cultures through his eyes. Let's have a look at Peru. Mass graves from the Chimu culture were found dating from 13th to 15th century AD, uncovering the remains of a total of 269 children from various excavations along the Pacific coast. The Lamas had it even worse, as 466 of them were found too. The earliest mass sacrifices in the region were at Pampa La Cruz, with 230 skeletons of children. It was interpreted as the people trying to soothe the gods after the El Nino hurricanes. That's a pretty expensive ritual, especially after a natural disaster. And that supposedly took place near Chan Chan, the largest pre-Columbian city, famous for its amazing citadels with housing, irrigation systems, temples, ceremonial rooms, and a giant pile of gold, which was of course looted by the Spaniards a little later. Others, like the Incas, are thought to have mass murdered their children in times of famine. Yes, they apparently killed off the children who hadn't starved to death. They are also said to have killed a pair of children when an important event happened in the life of the emperor. How does any of this make any sense? Couldn't it have been anything else? And that's the point. Today, we don't know. But experts can't afford to say that. Or, their jobs and careers would be in jeopardy. The current narrative makes it seem like sacrifice, human or animal, was a usual occurrence, to the point where the Mayans are said to have sacrificed a person a day. There are stories where these savages would sacrifice a person each day by slitting their throat and letting the blood flow down the steps of the temple. They moved up a step every day till the 365th day. This pleased their god. Man, the amount of knowledge of astronomy, geometry, trigonometry, and architecture just to make a fancy human blood fountain of ridiculously large proportions. Every structure we find from the ancient South Americans or any ancient civilization is automatically deemed as a temple. Because, all the ancients did was eat, pray, sleep, sacrifice, repeat. It's funny. The old world is said to have occasionally slaughtered animals to please gods. And so came the moral saviors to tell the savages to do it every day instead. Just call it food. Oh, and didn't the Spanish Inquisition burn thousands of people alive in the name of God? One more thing. If it isn't sacrifice, then what could it be? Let's look at this Mayan plaque. To the modern eye, this looks like sacrificial murder, right? Do you guys know about the ancient physician named Sushruta? He laid the foundations of medicine and surgery thousands of years ago. The Sushrut Samhita is actually one of the three foundational texts of Ayurveda. Here is an illustration depicting the sage proceeding with an operation on a patient. Doesn't that look strangely like the Mayan sculpting? Who can be sure of the level of technology there was back then? This carving from the Olmecs, the earliest known Mesoamerican civilization, was made between 11th and the 5th century BC. According to the legend, they were very ancient and the creators of art and science. Today, nobody can explain what is happening in this scene. And it looks strangely modern for the work of a bloody pagan. The snake figure is identified as the feathered serpent god. But experts are baffled by the rest of it, and all they can say is basically that it's a priest wearing a handbag. We can't understand unless we reassess our preconceived views of the world. Just take this for an example. The Kailasa temple is a one-piece structure carved straight into a basalt mountain. Basalt is one of the strongest natural minerals. This is how we work with basalt in the 21st century to make basic slabs. In 1682, 30 years after renaming the city to Aurangabad, the ever-so-amazing Aurangzeb sent a small army of about 1,000 of his minions armed with swords, hammers, and other tools to destroy the Kailasa temple. After 3 years, all they managed to do was break some elephant trunks and chip off some carvings. They failed. What I fail to understand is how the Kailasa temple was made with hammers and chisels when similar tools failed to destroy it. You don't require some fancy liberal arts degree or any scientific vocabulary to understand this. Also, the temple has bridges connecting towers, rainwater harvesting systems, drainage systems, hidden underground passages, elaborate balconies, and complex stairways. And we are made to believe that a geometrically perfect structure that looks like a computer graphic fractal was carved by hammers and chisels. Why? Because we couldn't do any better? Where are the chisel marks? Why is this complex built on the edge of a cliff? You know, the most difficult place to build. Where is the construction debris? The approximately 450,000 tons of it. Or the 100+ cave network inside, out of which we are only allowed to access 30-odd caves. The government says it isn't safe. All this doesn't sound like a bunch of hunting-gathering savages who built impossible structures in their free time. Let's not even talk about the dates involved here. Let's get this sacrificial nonsense out of the way first. There is no doubt that blood ritual happened in some parts of the world, but not usually where or when you would expect it to. The most undeniable depictions of sacrifice can actually be found in 1st to 3rd century Rome. The cult of Mithraism appeared to have developed in the Roman Empire around that time. It seems VIP Romans used to worship Mithras, a sun god born on the 25th of December, and slay a bull in his honor. There are many statues featuring Mithras in the act of sacrificing the animal. Here, a picture from 2nd century Lyon, France, apparently shows an altar they used for this sacrifice. It's funny. first burn their libraries of books and records, wipe it all out completely, kill the monks, the teachers, the gurus for hundreds of years, and then ask for proof of a thriving civilization. Oh, where's the proof? Then they leave some tidbits around and present entire civilizations with all their imagination. Let's take a hypothetical scenario. 500 years from now, Sanatan is wiped out. Who will be there to refute made-up claims of this picture, for example? You know, if someone says that some Brahmin demon named Sushrut would get his minions to hold down a poor Dalit and would cut open their skulls as an offering to Kali Ma or something. The question now is, has this happened to us? What about Sati and the 40-odd cases ever recorded over a span of 2300 years in some remote villages that the British based the whole Sati myth on? How about the so-called horse sacrifice in the Vedas? Ashwamedh? Even though it's clearly stated as a purely non-violent ritual, it is still considered a bloody sacrifice. Most of our libraries and scriptures are already burned down. We're in the final steps. Why are sadhus being attacked everywhere? We think it's a new trend with the secular and all, but it's been happening for hundreds of years. All the civilizations that were wiped out, it wasn't all the doings of the invaders. It was in fact the weaker members of civilization that supported the New World Order. The ones that till date agree that the Greeks, Mayans, Vedic people were all savages. Their own ancestors. Generations later, it becomes an accepted fact. Now, a bigger question. Is it still happening now? I'll end today's episode with this little video. An example of recent times and how we are portrayed right in front of us. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon. Namaste.
Люди продолжают повторять свои вещи по культуре и всякие свои обряды.
If you could have coming to India just 50-60 years ago,
Если 50-60 лет назад приехали бы в Индию,
if a husband would die,
если муж умирает,
the woman cannot live.
то тогда жена даже не может оставаться в живых.
A widow cannot live.
В живых даже не может женщина оставаться.
Widow has to throw into fire and burn alive along with the dead husband.
Да, когда сжигают тело мужа, она должна тоже следовать за ним и живьем сгорать с мужем.
And if husband die,
Если муж умирает,
a woman's life is so terrible.
тогда женщина, вдове так тяжело и
50,
сложно.
60 years later,
Через 50-60 лет примерно.
now it is stopped. No more like a burning down, a burning woman alive.
Уже прекратили эту практику, чтобы вдов сжигали.
But
Но
woman, a widow life is not easy.
вдовам там очень тяжело.
I can talk to you for an hour or two about the life of a widow, how they live.
Я могу где-то час-два часа спокойно говорить о том, как вдовы там живут.
And where does it come from?
Ну, а вообще, откуда вот эти практики, то есть
Is
эти,
it come from the
вот
Bible?
этот порядок приходит?
No.
Это что, разве из Библии? Нет.
No. Power of darkness.
Нет, это сила тьмы.
Sacrificing children.
Это жертвы приносить детей,
Worshipping idols.
идолопоклонство,
Drinking alcohol and dancing around the trees.
пьянствовать и танцевать вокруг деревьев.
Friends, they do not know the word of God.
Друзья, они не знают Слова Бога. Слово Божье.
2000 years ago,
2000 лет тому назад.
Jesus Christ.
I'm coming from a Sikh background, worshipping 10 gurus. We had rituals that we had to follow, and if we didn't follow them, trust me, we'd know about it. On top of that, we had spirits that we worshipped. You know, we've done a lot of deliverances here today. There was demon possession going on in my house. I was abused from a young age. I was rejected the minute I was born. My parents only wanted 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. I'm the 4th out of 5. But you understand that God has good plans for us. You see, Jesus died so that we could have life, and life more abundantly, it says. You understand that my parents tried everything to kill me. My mother and my uncle tried to drown me in the bath. My dad beat me up that bad that he put me in hospital. All because I was born a girl. I was sexually abused from the age of 5, 6 years old. And this went on till the age of 18 when I left home. I ran away from home because I knew my dad would kill me. In the process, I had 2 attempted arranged marriages where my family were trying to fob me off to anybody who would want me. And my dad's words were, marry someone in India because it's cheap for me to marry you off. I don't want to waste my money on you. But you understand that God is an awesome God.